Hey guys, so Slate Digital just released an update to their virtual mix rack, and we need to talk about it.
At McRae Music.
Hey guys, how are you doing? I am richly blessed. I pray that you are as well. All right, so Slate Digital has updated their virtual mix rack. Now, if you're not familiar with the virtual mix rack, it is basically the flagship of their total access plug-in bundle, and it's modeled after a 500 series chassis where you have different modules that you can put in place. You can move the modules around, and they're all modeled, of course, after classic hardware. So you have EQs, compressors, de-essers, all kinds of cool things, right? And the virtual mix rack is amazing. If you've been watching this channel, if you've watched, pretty much any of my videos, you've probably seen it, especially if you're watching my mixing series, all right? Now, they have just released and it's not just a little update. There are some really, really cool features, new features that they've added into the virtual mix rack that we need to talk about. And there are some things that they've added in that we have been asking for as seasoned users. And I think that this update is going to make the virtual mix rack more accessible to newer users as well. So let's get into that. Before we do, please take a moment and leave a like on this channel if you will, and feel free to subscribe so that you can know when new videos are coming out. And without further ado, let's take a look at the new virtual mix rack. All right, guys, so here we are. We are looking at the new virtual mix rack. All right, right off the bat, we can see that there are some subtle design changes, right? If we look at our dream strip buttons, they're a lot sleeker. I like that. That's nice. High class looking stuff here. We also see on the left, we have a new navigation area where we have our modules, but then we have an area called macro. Ooh, we're going to take a look at that. You're going to like that. That's really cool. And we can see we have some macro buttons kind of hanging out over here too. So that's going to be interesting to see what that does. But I want to start with this purple Discovery preset browser. So one of the, I think, things that could be kind of intimidating about the virtual mix rack is just knowing what the heck all these things are and how they work together. All right, if we look at what's going on over, it's just a ton of stuff over here. And all of these things, to my knowledge, are modeled after actual hardware. Now, if you're someone like me, until the past 7 years, so for the majority of my audio engineering and music production career, have been solely in the box, right? Meaning, if you don't know what that means just dealing with software on your computer. Up until 7 years ago, I really had little to honestly no experience with actual hardware, like actual physical consoles, actual outboard gear, physical compressors and EQs and all those kind of things. I just didn't have experience, wasn't exposed to that because all my experience was in the box. And so for someone like that, or if today, you're brand new to like hardware, you don't really know, like this can be kind of intimidating. Like, what am I using? How do I combine these things? And so they have a new browser that I think is really going to help bridge the gap to people who don't have that much experience with outboard gear and with hardware. So if we take a look at this, this is really cool, right? We have all these presets. Now, to be fair, they've been had presets, right? Presets have been here, but to be honest, I've never used them, right? I just pop in the modules that I want. I, tweak different things the way I want to, have my combination of things. I have all my custom dream strips I've created, and I just use those. But this new browser is making presets much more appealing to me. Like, I'm looking forward to kind of exploring some of these and seeing what they have here. I can search, so I can filter. Let's say I want to look for just some stuff for drums, right? Or how about guitar? All right, cool. How about bass? All right, this is fantastic. How about a bus, right? So I can search for whatever I specifically want, and I can get different presets for that thing. And then we have different categories over here. I can look at the different Slate bundles. I can look at different authors. If you have a favorite preset author and you want to just look at their stuff, you could do that. Can look at and browse genres of music. That can be very useful. Instruments, right? Grab specific instruments and things. And then modules, right? I can just look at the individual modules and, choose presets that have that module in all the presets. And then, of course, I have the presets over here. All right, I can sort, default, newest to oldest, sort alphabetically, right? Whatever we want to do. So the point is, this is making presets much more accessible. And I actually want to play around with a couple of presets here. I've got this currently inserted on my drum bus, and I have a little section of this song selected. Let's see what the drums sound like right here. All right, so since I have it on the drum bus, let's search for stuff for the drum bus. And let's see what we've got here. We've got some cool things: drum bus, modern drum bus, smooth drum bus, right? Vintage drum bus. So some pretty cool things happening here. Let's load up. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's do modern drum bus. It says it's going to make my live drums smack. These aren't live drums. I don't know if I want to do it, but let's just try it and see. So I'm going to hit load. Now, one of the things that I don't really care for is when you hit load, it does not automatically close the Discovery browser. I would like to see that feature added so I don't have to come here and close it, but it's fine. All right, so here we see the preset loaded up. And one of the cool things that you'll see with presets that also makes things more accessible is the usage of macros, right? So let's talk about macros a little bit. So macros basically allow us to control multiple elements of our modules from one knob. And we can see that our presets here have some modules or some macros rather already in place. This is also making things more accessible because, right, you might not know what all these knobs and things do, but you probably know what spank means. Like, I want my drums to smack a little bit more, right? You probably know what shine means, right? I want my drums to have a little bit more shine on the top, be a little bit brighter. Sub, we all know what that means. I want them to be a little heavier, right? So we can have different controls here in more plain English, and we're making audio engineering more accessible to new users, and I think that's great. We can see the colors here, so this lets me know that sub is simultaneously going to control both the boost and attenuation of my lows. Of course, I could dial in whatever low frequency I want. Shine here is doing the same thing for my highs. Spank is controlling my input and output on my stress compressor here. And then makeup EQ is controlling some things in my lows and highs in my FGA module. All right, so let's play around with some of these macros. Now, I'm interested to see what some of these do because I don't know why it would be both boosting and attenuating the highs or the sub. So we'll see kind of what that does. This makes sense to me, and so does that. But let's play around with these macros and see. Let's hit our drums here and see what's going on. Let's add some sub. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. It's boosting, but then it's adding a attenuation at a slightly different rate to control it. So that's cool. How about shine? Now, shine is doing both at the same time. So I don't think that's going to do much of anything. Let's find out. Yeah, that's doing a little something. I think it was meant to do the same thing as the sub, so we might need to adjust the different rates here. I'll talk about how we could do that in a minute. Let's look at some of these other things. All right, so this is cool, right? And we can. The point here is to allow you to see what these things are doing. We could really take time here and dial in the exact sound we want. We're not going to do that, right? But the point is to show you what's happening. And so this is cool, right? We can load our preset, right? Let's choose a different one just to see. Let's go back to drum bus and let's try the smooth drum bus here and see what that does. Right, and let's move this on over so you guys can see. Right, so same thing. We have some different stuff happening in here, right? Let's play around with some of these. All right, so we can see this is cool. We're making our presets much more accessible with our macros. So that's fantastic. All right, cool. Now, here is the great part, right? If you have your own dream strips like me, you can see I have a bunch of dream strips up here. And if I go in here and look, I've got a bunch of custom mix racks that I've created. Just a ton of them in here. Sometimes from just doing different mixes for the same client is like, all right, we're just gonna make a preset for that. But I can, let's just go to my regular smegular SSL strip. All right, let's just pull that up. And let's replace the compressor here with the distressor. Well, technically it's called stress. So let's drop that in there. All right, and then let's come over to our macros, and I can start building my own macros. Let's just build a simple macro here, and we are going to call this lighten, right? And I want this one knob to boost my highs and also bring down my lows. Simple, right? We'll have it on one button. So I'm going to click right on here and notice that it is showing me this is a red and it's coloring each thing in red. And so I can choose which things I want this to control. Let's have this control my level of highs and the level of my lows. All right. So this is great. Now, what I can do, and if I start moving this, you can see it's controlling both of those. But I can come in here, right? And I can start to adjust how it's moving. So right now it is boosting my lows as I bring up my highs. I don't want it to do that. I want it to bring my lows down. I want it to attenuate my lows. So I'm going to switch the order of this. So now as I move up on this, it is moving down on that. So that is great. And it's doing it equally. Now, if I wanted to, I could start playing around with these percentages here. And I could start saying, hey, you know what? I want my high knob to move faster or slower than my low knob, right? I can start playing around with that stuff if I wanted to do that. And you can really get in here and do some cool things, right? So that is fantastic. Let's add in another one, right? Let's add another one and let's call this one smack. Matter of fact, let's call it crush. And let's say I want this to control, let's see what I want to control. I want this to control my input, my attack, and my output, right? And I could do the same things here, right? And I could get in here and I could say, right now it's going to move all of them the same, but I could come in here and I could say, all right, as my input goes down, I want my attack to go up, right? Whatever it is that I want. We're not going to, take the time to dial all that in. That's not what this video is for. But I want you to see that we can really get in here and create our own macros, right? So that is really, really cool. I could come back out to modules and they're just going to work, right? I can come over here, can start moving stuff. Everything is moving the way that I want it. So you can take the time to really dial in exactly what you want. And this is going to save you a lot of time when you're mixing. I am absolutely doing this, all right? Because it's going to save me time. I know what I want. I can get in there and get to exactly what I want to get to much more quickly. That is really cool. As you can see, it's a very simple interface to utilize. So that is awesome. All right, let's get away from our drum bus for a second. Let's come over to this harp. I'm going to show you something else here. I'm going to pull up Virtual Mix Rack here on my harp. Cool thing about this is this whole session was set up before the update. Virtual Mix Rack was already there. I come into the session now, load it up, and it is immediately the new version of Virtual Mix Rack. So that's really cool. Let's talk about side chaining. Let's throw a compressor on here. Let's grab our FG401. And I can side chain this. Now, if I look at this right now, the compressor is going to be controlled by the internal signal coming from the harp that is playing right here. Let's play this and see. Right, so we can see that it's coming from what's happening with the harp, okay? Now, let's say that for whatever reason in my mix, I'm fighting the kick and the harp are fighting. And I want to add a little bit more pulse to this harp by having the compressor actually be controlled by what's going on from the kick, right? Let's take a look. So I can come over here. I'm going to solo the kick just so you can hear what it's doing, right? So let's say I want this controlled by the signal from the kick, just for an example. I can now do that. So I can side chain here, which I've always been able to do in Luna. I can just say side chain. What do I want my side chain signal to come from? I want it to come from the kick. Done. The new thing is now in VMR, I can come down here and I can switch this from an internal signal to an external signal, and it's going to receive sidechain signal from the kick. I'm going to play it internally. I'm going to switch it to external and watch what happens. So it's internal right now. Let's switch it. Let's switch it back. Back. That is fantastic. We can now sidechain individual compression modules inside of VMR. This is great, right? So I can play around with this. There also is an output gain. So if I need to adjust that, certain compressors are going to work differently when it comes to side chaining. And so we have our gain, our output gain here, and we have our side chain gain here, so that if I need to, I can start adjusting my signal to make sure that, my side chain is, not messing things up with my signal flow there. So that is fantastic, right? Great new feature that we can use that people have been asking for. Really, really good. All right, so that's the meat and potatoes of the update. Couple of other little cosmetic things, right? That again, subtle things that sometimes we're asking for as users. I can come up here now and I can start adjusting my scaling. Boom, I can make things larger, right? It's going to limit me right now because I have my screen shrunk a little bit for the screen capture, but we can go all the way up to 200%. We can go all the way down to 75%, right? So we can really get this in to the size that we want it to be. And that is fantastic, right? So these are some great new additions to the virtual mix rack. This is not just a little, something here, a little something there. This is a major update here that I think is making the virtual mix rack much more accessible to new users and adding some bells and whistles for those of us who have been using this for a little while, and adding some things that we have been asking for, like the side chaining and the zoom options in terms of our magnification. Slate, great job. 2 thumbs up, Slate Digital. Everyone give Slate a round of applause. They're not paying me for this. I just really like their stuff. That's amazing, right? Like I said, I believe it's making things more accessible to newer users, and they've added a bunch of cool features for us seasoned folk and added stuff that people have been asking for some time. Of course, you're going to get this as a part of the Total Access bundle. Card up in the top if you have not watched my video reviewing that bundle. Lots of new features have been added to it since I did that review a while back, so I might need to do an update video on that. But everything that I said in that video still stands. It is an amazing package, and I believe it is worth your investment, right? So if you're interested in that, check it out, give it a try, and see. I think that you're going to like what you get. All right, guys, so as usual, feel free to jump into the comment section. Comments, questions, all the things, throw them right in there. Also, feel free to take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I'm going to be seeing you soon in another video.